This is brought to you by NEF Cyber Learning. I'll show you an overview of how to use the math homework helper. I start that by going into the learning management system and logging in as a user. So here you see the learning management system showing the packages of courses that are available to me. I'm going to click on Math Homework Helper, and it's going to click on Homework Helper specific to New York schools. And here it shows, we have set it up so that it shows by each of the books or classes. So I'm going to pick on Algebra 1. So this brings up the Algebra 1 Math Homework Helper. Notice that here is the book. This is the textbook. So we can set it up so that the textbook appears directly that applies to your school. In this case, this is the Algebra 1 book by author Holiday and published by Glencoe and McGraw-Hill. Now here, there are a few things. Here, this area shows the solutions for pages 492 to 494 in this case, and we can go into those exercises here that appears below. It is showing you the odd number exercises that for which the solutions are here, and as well as hints. You can also do search by chapter and sections, which we'll cover a little bit later. So let me jump right into it and pick one exercise. Let's say I'm going to pick exercise number 3. All right, so now it shows me a few things that I can do. One is that using this arrow, I can get some hints for this problem number 3 on page 492 and solve it using those hints. The idea here is that not to give the entire solution, but to show hints so the students can figure things out. Now, if I want to get some material or conceptual things, review or want to learn about it, I have a couple of options. I have watching some videos that may be applicable, reading some lessons, and we'll try a couple of these. So I'm going to first pick watching the video. So here I'm going to click on it here and pick the subject factoring trinomials as the video in this example.
How do you factor a trinomial? Let's look at the case where the leading coefficient of a quadratic trinomial is 1. Suppose we have something like x squared plus 5x plus 6, and we want to factor it.
So you get the idea. So the video goes through the conceptual thing. The student can review this to get their foundation concepts built before trying to answer the questions, or even after doing that to augment the foundation. So I'm going to close this for now and go into some of the other areas. If I go into the reading the lesson, here there are again several topics that are here. So I can pick factoring the trinomials again as the topic, and here a screen will come up and show me the material that the student can go through, or the parents can help the student go through So in this case, it talks about the distributive law that applies here, and shows how to do the factoring and so on. So you can scroll down and see the entire lessons plan, and there are also some related topics related to distributive law that are hot links. You have FOIL, and there are a few other things on the bottom that I remember seeing, like here, factoring by groups and irreducible polynomials. Anyway, so these lessons are very specific to the topic or exercise we're talking about. So I'm going to close this one and go back here. So we tried watching the video, reading the lesson, and now I want to try out the problem. So if I want to try out the problem, I could click on here to show the first hint. So it's trying to give you the hint, give the student a hint that use the zero product property. If that's still not useful to the student can look for the next hint. So it shows you this. So like that, I can go through and go to the entire answer. So this gives you a overview of how to use the math homework helper. And now I'm going to show some advanced topics that might be useful to your student. So I have logged into the learning management system, and I'm going to go into Algebra 1 again. And instead of going by the page numbers, which I can go here from page to page and so on, I want to go by chapter and section. Now, why is this important? It could be that, here I show the book, the Algebra 1 by author Holiday and published by McGraw-Hill Glencoe. And but in some cases, the exact version of the book or the revision of the book, edition of the book, may not match. We have most of the books used by public schools in the US, but it's possible that your school may be using a textbook that's slightly different. I'll talk about how to look for the book closest to your school's use a little bit later. But first, let me go searching by chapter and section. So instead of going by page numbers, now in this case I can go by individual chapters. So in this case I'm going to pick a chapter. Let's say I pick chapter 3, and then it shows within the chapter different sections, and so I can click on sections and go to their exercises. So I'm going to pick on section 2. And so this shows section 2, and if I click here, I get the exercises. So now you see that I can get to the problem instead of by the page, but by using chapter and section. If you don't find page numbers on your book matching, but the textbook appears to be the same, you might be able to find it by going chapter and section. So in this case, I'm going to go into one of the problems. Let's say problem number 5. So now you see that I'm back in the same type of things that I saw in the first overview video, where I went directly by the exercise number. So it's you can get to the same exercise through chapter and sections. That's really what I wanted to show. The other second thing that I want to show that we did not try in the video is this activity. Activity is a more of an interactive way that the tool provides you, where your student can learn some concepts by trying things out. You watch the video, you try the lessons. Even then, it may not be everything succinct, and you can try some activities. So I'm going to pick here, and in this particular case, it is showing me that only one activity that is available. It's called equating expressions activity. So I'm going to click on that. All right. So in this activity, it is each activity would be different. In this activity, it is trying to show how the algebraic expressions can be used to equate each other with the values of the variable. So let me kind of go into it so you get the idea. So I'm going to enter an expression called, let's say, 2x plus 6, and then I'll use 3x plus 2. Now each of these algebraic expression, shows a series of points that can be drawn in the graph. So that's why the graph is there. So in order to see how these equations show in terms of the graph as well as where they intersect, now where they intersect, this is a little bit of a math thing. Where they intersect is where the two equations are balanced. That means their resulting value is the same. So I can go into here, click on enter. I can go into entering different x values and see the weight of how the left side and the right side matter. So if I put left, let's say 3, say okay, you see it's kind of changed a little bit, and these are the points. It may be easier for me to kind of play with it by using the slider in this case. So you see that there is not much changing. So you see on the left side, I'm sorry, on the right side, how it's plotting the points that are corresponding to these expressions. And by going left, you see that they are diverging. So obviously that's not where the answer is. It's going to balance. It's probably on the other side. So I'm going to go a little bit more and see. So now you see that this the equations balances. That means at this value of x, which happens to be here 4, 2x plus 6 is equal to 3x plus 2. So this is again another way of getting foundation of the concept built. All right, so now I'm going to close this and go back to this place. Now, let's see. One other thing that I want to show you is how to find your books if the book that is set up in the learning management system doesn't match for your student. So we can set up the books for you and to make it easy, but sometimes if you don't find it, you are not stuck. You can search for the book yourself and get going there without waiting for us to get back on that. So let me do that by perhaps going into, I'll go into home. So in this you see that we have find textbook by subject. So I'm going to pick again Algebra 1. And you notice here all the textbooks that are in the system are displayed. These textbooks are covered. That means for each of the textbook, all of the exercises and their solutions and helper reside. So you can browse through this, scroll through it. That's what I'm doing here, and see all the Algebra 1 book and find the book that matches your schools. A quick way to do that by looking at the picture. Another way is to do it by going into the author. Now you notice that some of the states have their own version of the book by the same author. So you want to pick the book that is either an exact match or a closest match. If you cannot find a book that is in this, then find a book that is closest by the same author, by the same publisher, and most likely you'll find a different version of it or a revision of it, or what they call editions. So pick the most recent edition that matches with your book, and most likely the chapters there would match with yours, and I showed you already how to search by the chapters. So that should be it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email. Happy learning. Thanks.